Kia Hemi Office 5522 Private Room Beach Office 5522 Saquarema, Brasil, Rio de Janeiro State, Saquarema City, City Surf Rio. First of all, I'm not happy in have this conversation because it's my off season. I delivered the research as independent effort made all by law, self-supported, self-motivated, offered, and this sound is the Bluetooth that has an automatic thing and have no support at all. The second thing which we will have in mind is that according with the consumer law Brazil, when I have a purchase as a cell phone or a beverage, a soft drink at the market, and you put, for instance, drug inside this beverage, or poison, or whatever, and indeed you had this as a diffuse group, which is the consumer, we can claim the offenders and have switched the order as proofs presented at the trial. If this relation as consumed goes, for instance, by the financial system in the way we have, consider the financial system Brazil, which is a piece of the international financial system, maybe we will have the review from this international financial system that will try to get the point at the very first moment, observing the interface named bank, and we will overtake this to have the legal accomplishment. Because indeed and in general, the criminal offenders at public institutions have no legal accomplishment and they can do this because they are criminals. And they will use the prerogative inside institutions to commit abuses, to violate data, and in the end, try to obtain a decision in a very corrupted system of justice with prevalence as career for the corrupted judges and prosecutors and officers at the police, whatever. And in the end, the very, very end, they will try to launch a law saying that all criminal scam, it's not a criminal scam, or will protect the uh, more density, the variables with more criminal density, which implies the lower level has capacity to have the legal accomplishment. By this, we can't complain with the offender. We can have one regular and reliable information from criminal groups inside the public institutions, inside the democratic institutions, inside the Brazilian state institutions, which implies in many moments the defensive system in Brazil, our military forces. Big problem. If this goes inside a security forum, an extra deeper big problem by the mental model that is shared inside the institution as a common purpose, which is take advantage of anything, everything, and claim some arguments that are so absurd that you know people will consider that this is lunacy. Then we will have a procedure, which is an international procedure as this entire research, optimization, and development according to the law. Article 5, Item 5 of our Brazilian Constitution, based on law and order review, 80s New York, Millennium, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It's the legitimacy as strike back, very according with the aggression suffered. If I suffered and got victimized as such, maybe the interest on it will be extended field, victimized with elements inside the consumer relation or the relation as consumer with the provider as mobile, cell phone, the communication and internet or Wi-Fi at my home or the bank or even the grocery store when I have the purchase of a soft drink. In Minas Gerais state, we had death events by these serious numbers. Was complained maybe with the international law enforcement. They know this. And then, for instance, if you prepared a situation to put my effort under qualified or considered illegal, did you had this offender, Brazil? You must be reliable in your declarations. By the Article 174, is this part of your public pattern as planning things? It will be made the same against you by the international interest in my independent effort. You know, if you set these situations to put my research as anti-crime research to form an anti-crime body, get and use the financial charge as part of the individualization to make seizures and then have you all convicted by the International Constitutional Committee or by the American Justice if you commit, for instance, industrial crime. When you violate the research, for instance, as a development for the IBM or for the Microsoft, you are in deep shit. Audit, governance, risk, and compliance. Governance suggested to have these, as legitimacy as strike back, as a parallel group of evidence against the offender, Brazil, and peers on public budget especially. Integrate all criminal effort as a listed advantage or an interface showing this model as a legal advantage. To be used during the charge, which is not the compensation, it's the charge as a criminal conviction required against you, offenders, hidden at public institution Brazil combined with others, broken window theory, New York. Then will help the criminal conviction as a list proof from now on. It means that we will have two groups of proofs to compare things, and one is this financial factoring, which is having the concept as nemesis and switching. This was reported to the CIA and the State Department, how to have the new configuration inside a criminal system using the variables inside. And we are doing this all the time. Take a look at the board, have yourself mapped, and then you got the thing. This was the pattern as development of criminal activity as departmental formed by failures and redistribution. We had all this. Now we will only have a situation here which is just a comparative measurement to put things clear a bit more. I really hope and I really know that you will be convicted offender. You will probably spend your next 20 years in a federal prison in America. We have this procedure. Can you get? It's the crosscut. We have the database Sigma as collective data 552122 this each 552121 Rio de Janeiro. Distortions on both considering specific elements. Communication, Wi-Fi plus mobile. You will have the comparative measurement of these two both. Then we have another one which is the same thing. For instance, let's suppose that I have here the comparative measurement as cross-cut considering the modem as Wi-Fi. Rio de Janeiro. I have this as prevalence, and here I have another one to have the comparative measurement. And I have the comparative measurement Rio de Janeiro and this city, Saquarema. And sometimes I have the international peer or player on it by a joint venture, by themselves. And they will be placed here. One is the America, at this case, company. We had maybe this conversation with the IBM top level and the State Department, which is use some areas that could have problems inside the company to create a structural gap at the workflow and have associations around the globe inside this gap. We can box everybody here. They are all boxed, and then we will transfer them as an asset. And this asset is qualified as something against the criminal, anti-crime, because sometimes our top level as CEO, board member have a big problem to face criminal offenders, criminal interests inside the company as investor or claim themselves as investor, but they have. They must have the special protection in the way we had and the way we did and the way we consider. But the FBI inside, to put things a bit more secure and have this strike, which is huge, massive, that we are doing present time. It's qualified as the charge, which is a consequence from a privacy violation up to systematical behavior by public corruption, especially Public Department Brazil and PS linked with crossing the industrial crime and warfare. And we will be convicted by the nemesis proof, which is the responsiveness that strike back very according with the legal and limits that you made against me. If you set an embarrassed situation to put me down, but my research underqualified, we will have this as a parallel and a second group of evidence against you all. You will be sent to jail. For sure, I bet you do. And you will spend your next 20 years inside the federal prison in USA. Then we will have these fields, which is the module as itself. And it's fields for comparative measurement. We have the logistic, which is a system international, and you have a supply chain as workflow, that serves as authorization. We will have